Welcome to the Women of BSV, and today we have Michael Hudson, who is the founder and CEO of Bitstocks. And Bitstocks have Gravity, which is a Bitcoin bank, which is based in London and opens up to Europe. We've just got a few things that are happening on the platform recently with an announcement about NFTs and an iOS launch. And so welcome to the Women of BSV, Michael. It's really lovely to see you. So honoured you
Thank you
could
so
make
much. No, it's a pleasure to be here, girls. Honestly, it's a pleasure. So we can talk about
No,
what
it's
really. Let's go.
okay. Well, look, let's go back a bit because I was actually having a look at your LinkedIn page earlier, and I'm really intrigued to hear about your first business and what age you were when you started it and how that worked because it sounded like serious stuff. Tell us
Yeah,
about it.
I'll be honest. I don't even know what's on my LinkedIn. Um, so, but in terms of business, where it started, I guess professionally, I started my first business at 16 years old.
Yeah.
So that was a sole trader. It was a company called Shigs Computers. But I guess what predated that, the DNA of that, was I've just always been into tech. So I was always tinkering and breaking technology and putting it back together. I had a couple world records at the time for having the fastest home computer for certain benchmark.
No way.
Yeah, so running certain configurations. That was the thing that I was doing online. That's how I was building the name of myself online. And then I then incorporated a business when I was 16, and I set up my account at the Lloyds Bank in South Kensington, just so it said South Kensington on my checkbook.
Oh, very clever.
So I was already thinking like that as a kid. And by the time I was 17, going on 18, parents very much pushing me down the educational route. It just wasn't really me, but I was going college, Southgate College in North London at the time. And I had two business studies teachers. One was a lady called Sharon. Awesome woman. She had like incredible aspirations as to what she wanted to do outside of just what she was doing as a lecturer. And it was one of those lecturers where you go into their classroom, you put down your pen and your pad, and you just interact, you listen, you engage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? For me, that's the way forward. My other teacher for the same subject was a guy called Martin, typical textbook pusher, never run a business in his life. The rumor in the classroom was he actually used to work at Tesco's prior to being a teacher. And it just showed me that it just didn't resonate with me. And also at the time, being 17, 18, I was actually making £8,000 a month with the business that I was running at the time. So that created, I guess, a degree of arrogance at a young age. I'm not saying I wielded that always responsibly and in the best way. But that's how it started really for me. So I've always been basically self-funded, and that's allowed me to keep a sovereign tongue.
So big. Yeah, such an important thing to be able to make the decisions and call the shots and not be beholden to others and be the boss in the truest sense.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And I think that's carried through in everything you've done since, from what I see anyway. But so that basically propelled you. I mean, that's learning on the job, isn't it? Like that's real education when you run a business from being a teenager, and there's no way anyone can really teach you that. It sounded like that all came really, really naturally. Did you feel like you had any mentors, or was it just the self-driven sort of force from within?
It was very much a self-driven force. I guess I had my uncle was the only positive example I had around me of someone doing business. So my uncle had a computer business, still runs the same business today.
Yeah.
So I used to go to computer fairs with him. So this is before like eBay was a thing. You go to like the computer fair markets in order to get cheap components. So that was like a weekend thing. So that was my exposure. And this is how I got into overclocking and benchmarking, because I always had access to hardware because of my uncle. So I got understanding about business then. But I remember being 15 years old and saying to my uncle, probably about 14 actually, saying to my uncle, you have to go online. So this is when eBay started to become a thing. And I was like, you have to go online. But who takes business advice from a 14-year-old?
Right.
So I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah.
And then within a couple of years, I was making more money than my uncle. So it's like, I say that, and to this day, we have an amazing relationship. But I've learned through failing, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Just failing forward, but just always.
I think everybody does, though. I mean, there's no way to be in business and not fail.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're kind of not doing it at all, almost, if you're not failing occasionally. Yeah. No, that's so wicked. I mean, I myself started a business when I was a teenager as well, but it had nothing on your success, though. I was like relying on my own labor. I was like just data entry for mine. So there's no way I could make the kind of money that you made, but it was still an education, though. So yeah, no, it's fantastic. So what was next then? How did you get into Bitstocks, starting Bitstocks? Because that's an amazing company that's doing massive things.
Well, the computer side of what I was doing evolved into me dropping out of college. And then I pretty much spent the year when I was 19 pretty much in China. I lived in an area called Shenzhen in China, so it's just outside of Hong Kong. And I started to do business and get exposure to different cultures, understanding the difference between how the East does business in comparison to how the West does business. So I set up a digital branding company there where I'll buy in bulk from Chinese manufacturers, because they always like to sell you huge quantities, when the West just wants to sample something first before I commit to a huge quantity. So I'll buy in bulk, I break down into smaller quantities, I do Western packaging, Western speakers, obviously English speakers. I just added a bit of flavor to how the Chinese were doing things. Mm-hmm. I did really well in that. I was actually doing high definition webcams through upscaling before HD was really HD. So it's all like upscaling technology. So I've done pretty well in that period. And then I got wiped out with the credit crunch. So prior to the credit crunch, £1 was like 15.5 Chinese yuan. Post credit crunch is like £1 was like 9 Chinese yuan.
Wow.
And this was the point where I started to leverage myself, started to take credit. I mean, I was getting credit cards with pre-approved limits like 15 grand for the post. It's like a 19-year-old kid said, just spend me. I was like, okay, I'll spend you. So I went through that period. The reason why I bring this up is because my financial collapse when I went through bankruptcy at the age of 20, going on 21, that taught me the most about the financial system, right? I was so stressed, right? Worried about how am I going to sell this? Because basically what happened to me is I had a car crash. I bought a brand new sports car. I had a car crash. My insurance expired the day before. In a very quick section of time, I went from being liquid, maybe about 60 grand in my bank account, 90 with like 20 grand, 30 grand worth of computer stock, to being like 50 grand in debt. Like this all happened over a space of like 6 months. Yeah. So that was a lesson. Yeah. But what it done, I was like, all the stress that I had, I then went through the court system and declared bankruptcy. I realized this is just freaking musical chairs. Yeah. It's designed in the system.
Yes.
So that got me very curious about money and money creation. Right. I was like, what is money really? Like, really, what is it? Right.
Yeah.
And then I looped that to prior conversation that I had with Gary McKinnon at the age of 17, talking to me about his extraterrestrial interest, what we're doing in terms of Earth, technology, government, how the world really works. And then I looked at money through my experience. I was like, feeded that back into it all. And it just set me on for the journey of digging into the deeper inner workings of how society works, right? So really understanding the economic system. Every pound, dollar, yen in circulation is owed to somebody by somebody. All debts are paid off. There will be no money. Right? So my primer to what I guess the vision of Bitcoin was very suitable. Right? So I spent a couple of years like dilly-dallying around in the tech space, similar models to what I was doing before, but not as good because I wasn't as incentivized, and the kind of connections and contact I had weren't there anymore. And And then I started to really delve into the world of finance. So I really got into finance, wealth restructuring, understanding things like trust structures, which very much came useful when I started to look into Craig, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Why would he want to do something like that? Yeah.
So I had a very firm understanding of these things even before I created Bitstocks. And the reason why I did create Bitstocks was because I saw the opportunity to make a lot of money, quite frankly, in investing and promoting a technology that at scale could actually impact how we live. Now, it was more financially centric for the first 3 years of Bitstocks' life, right? It was very much, we are going to reintroduce the human touch to this digital asset called Bitcoin. It's very old school stockbrokering style business. So as clients, we will call clients on the phone, we have a personal relationship with our clients. Our clients were investing from £3,000 at the beginning, but this is when Bitcoin was like less than $300, right? So we took your regular people and we built these people up to where they're doing things like calling me up saying, I've just taken my wife on a cruise. This is something that we've wanted to do for like the last 3 decades of our life and never had the opportunity to do it, right? So we had all these great things and these great experiences, but then I started to see the bullshit in the space. And that's luckily timed in with other things I was pursuing in terms of mathematics, science, alternative views in relation to the conventional views on these subject matters. And I found, I guess, some mathematical significances in Bitcoin that just sent me, it kind of like united my spiritual interest and like cosmology, archaeology, who we are. And then I saw something in Bitcoin and I realized there's something more profound here. And that's what started to birth child gravity, quite frankly.
What was it you saw in Bitcoin?
Geometry, harmony. Bitcoin is almost geometrically perfect in how its numerology works out. So in order for, you could almost prove in Bitcoin mathematically, well, you can prove mathematically that it's Turing complete, but you could actually almost prove artistically that it's Turing complete. Because the way that I see the mathematics in Bitcoin led to believe that what Bitcoin truly is a donut, it's a torus. Mathematically, it's a torus. Okay. Now, there's a hairline fracture in a torus, because I don't think the mathematics are perfect, and I prodded Craig on this in the first podcast that I had with him. But the beauty of what is within Bitcoin, which, by the way, is completely governed by the numbers 3, 6, and 9, completely, utterly.
Really?
Governed.
Yeah, the Tesla thing.
3, 6, and 9. I'll explain a quick base principle.
Yeah.
So cellular mitosis, right? Does one cell double and become 2 cells, or does one cell divide and become 2 cells? Chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
Really, it's both. So 1 doubled is obviously 2. 1 divided is 0.5. You get to a digital root, get rid of the 0 at the point, and you got 5. So if 1 now you consider to be a mirror, I've got 2 on this side, right? So I've done a 2 like that. And then on the other side, I've got a 5, which is a mirror opposite of the 2. So that the largest number in the universe is 1, right? Just bear in mind. So from 1, I get 2. From 1, I get 5. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. But when 8 is doubled, the digital root is 7, right? 8 doubled is 16, 1, 6 is 7. Really, you're counting how many 9s go into it. How many 9s go into 16? 1. What's my remainder? 7. So that's how my digital root. Okay. So I'm 1, 2, 4, 8, 7. And my last number, because I double 7, right, is 14. 1. Again, how many 9s go into 14? 1. My remainder is 5. 5 is the end of the sequence. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. Okay. Because if I double 5, I'm back to 1. Okay. So this continues and continues and continues. Okay. Bitcoin started off with 50 block distribution in the Coinbase reward. Okay. At every 4 years, roughly, okay, it divides.
Yeah.
And if you then get to the digital root of that sequence, it is doing the mitosis sequence in reverse. Okay, so it's 5, 7, 4, 2, then down to the 1, right? 5, 7, 8, 4, 2, 1. Bitcoin is actually unwinding itself based on this principle. Right? Now, the sequence breaks after a certain point because perhaps the challenge of computing 0 in conventional mathematics.
Oh.
Right? And this is why we don't have exactly 21 million coins.
Oh, it's like approaching 21 million or whatever. What is the phrase? I can't think now. It's like approaching 21 million or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's approaching 21 million because you can't get to that exact position. For instance, like, I can divide a cup of water and I'll never run out of water until I get to, say, the structure of water itself, the atomic structure. I split the atom, I don't have water no more. Right? So at what point do I call it quits? Right? Now, so I was looking at Bitcoin in these weird ways, right? And I had it all kind of like mapped out geometrically. And that made me very committed at an early stage that the only person who gave any degree of clarity around these weird ass questions that I had was Craig, right? There was nothing online talking about the numerology. Nothing at this point. When I had the conversation with Craig, but if people pay attention to that conversation, I think it's around 40 minutes to 50 minutes. When I press him on this, Craig admits he's still doing a PhD to work out the math.
Oh, wow.
So this is where I kind of had questions about David Rees. What was David Rees' involvement in the mathematics? David Rees was a polymath, right? But it got me very interested in Bitcoin. And I realized it can do so much more. It's got me lit up about artificial intelligence. It got me lit up about so much more. And it really got me vested into the true vision of where this is going. And gravity really is my attempt of having a stake in that world.
And do you feel, I'm just being devil's advocate for a minute, is there a sense in which things fall into these patterns because everything falls into these patterns because this is the structure of reality, and how could it not fall into those patterns? Or do you feel like that we could have another different version of Bitcoin that didn't have this structure to it?
Yeah. So where Bitcoin falls into that structure, and I think this is where Craig would come at this position in itself, is time, right? Time, because everything in Bitcoin is based on time, like 144 blocks in a day, that's a derivative of 9. The block reward being roughly every 4 years is 210,000 blocks in order to trigger that. Again, derivative of 9. So you that's where it's coming from. The time and the fact that it's linked to time is enforcing these things, right? But I think the fact that it's stuck to that and it's so precise, I think there's much more there to be unlocked and understood in how Bitcoin can operate the way that it operates.
And do you think that Craig stumbled into this?
I think that's a great question.
Or do you think he had some help?
I'm still keen to get the answers and really break down and wrestle him down on these points.
Because he made some pretty good damn decisions.
Yeah, very precise, very precise decisions.
Well, everything in the universe is math. So the fact that he has like sacred geometry in Bitcoin just proves that it's alive and has a spirit, same as anything else that
Absolutely.
we have. So it's quantum math, right? It's more unacknowledged in the quantum realms, but I mean, it's very, very interesting. I would love to know what your thoughts are on
This is why I speak about squares and circles, even though I get criticized for it. Like it's very much that. And with the way that I see it is geometry is sound frozen, and sound is geometry in motion, right?
Yeah.
And Bitcoin and all the interactions on Bitcoin, even if it looks chaotic, right, there's a rhythm. There will be a geometric rhythm if you're attuned as such. Right? So my whole vision and what I'm trying to do is, how do I get myself into a position where I can be the best DJ at this party? Right? Because we're going to have this running and interconnecting with every single system. So you're going to have such a dense core of data that if whoever understands it in such a way, in the fact that this is like motion, right? With data and restructures, there's fluidity to it, but there's potentially structured fluidity to it that, if understood, then we have a system where, in my vision, we all get Jarvis, but you don't all need to be a billionaire and be called Tony Stark.
Yeah, you describe, explain things very interestingly. It's very fascinating how you put it in the words.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, your metaphors are amazing. I was listening to a couple of your interviews earlier this morning. And I was like, oh, I love the way he described that. That
Thank you.
usable material for helping, be the way showers here as we are. But thank you for holding that space. It's great. It's very helpful.
I'm intrigued in the sort of nitty gritty of it. How do you feel like we're going to get from where we are now then to AI with Bitcoin? Have you had some thoughts about a way there, or you just speculating? Or?
Well, there was a good demo. I think CoinGeek New York. We got the whole, is it a dog or is it a muffin, right? Or Google capture codes, right? Now, make us fill those out to train the AI to get access to our account that we should have access to anyway. Right? Just doing micropayments and having human beings sit in front of a computer and saying, this is a dog, no, this is a muffin, right?
Yeah.
They get in the micropayment in order to do so. That's the shift, because I think we get more intelligent systems that way. Right?
By training them with humans.
Absolutely, because that's ultimately what it is. And I think only once if we look at Bitcoin as a human brain, in order for it to be functional, like we got to ensure, there's oxygen, nutrients, blood flow, the whole lot, but we got to light up the connections. Right? It's not useful unless it's dense. Right? So we're living in a very theoretical realm as to what a dense brain would look like on top of Bitcoin. Now, my belief, and also based on conversations I'm having around what's going to bring density and flow to the chain, we are going to see an explosion, genuinely going to see an explosion. And when you've got, say, for instance, we mentioned, Cassie mentioned quantum, right? So D-Wave, right, is probably one of the leaders in the quantum computing space. But if I was to buy a D-Wave quantum computer, it will be $7 million, I believe it is. And by the time I take delivery, it's like version 1 of the iPhone. It's out of date before I take delivery. It's a big investment. So what they've done is they then put it in the cloud, right? And now they're offering quantum computing at $2,000 per hour. But if I'm a university student, I ain't got the 7 million and I still ain't got the 2,000 an hour. Right? What I want to do with companies like this is I say, listen, D-Wave, you guys already stipulated how much you're willing to earn or how much you want to earn per unit of time. Issue is your units of time are too large. Right? So use the gravity
clever
API, right?
Yeah.
They're charging $2,000 per hour. Let's do 42 cents a second.
Yeah.
Right. I think it might be 56 cents a second. Let's do 56 cents a second. So instead, I could just say to them, okay, how about it's for instance 56 cents a second. Right? So now you've got that university student who might just have 10 seconds worth of code to validate his thesis that he's writing for his dissertation, right? And now it literally only cost me $5.50. What that actually does, to answer your question, is now I've got the intelligence of D-Wave accessible and curatable by the Bitcoin blockchain just because of a simple payment API.
I love it.
Genius.
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
It's not fighting the herd, right? It's like these guys say, I want dollars. The issue is like, yo, you can get more dollars if you quantize your time.
You know, I'm seeing exactly that at the moment. I use a lot of iPad apps and stuff because they got really good recently. And a lot of what they're offering is computing time. So a lot of the services that I'm tapping are like a video rendering or AI. And what they're offering is time on their computer, but they're doing it, you know, with a subscription model sort of thing, which it makes sense. But like what you're talking about makes even more sense. Because then you can access technology that you wouldn't dream of being able to use normally.
But this is why, for me, I was like 3 years ago, I was like, ironically, as twisted as it may seem, we need a bank. It's the play. If you want the world and you want access to the world's data and knowledge and information, it's payments that lubricate the world and gain access. We need to smash down the payment walls, right, and make them incredibly high velocity, fluid, make sure they're compliant, but they also have to be sexy. People are going to have to want to use them. Right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the business side of it, it's just really simple. Would you like to earn more money, sir? Would you like to be accessible to a wider user base, sir? If so, integrate this payment gateway and done. Right. So that's how we do it.
That's a brilliant model. I love it.
It could just be as simple as that. And then the smart companies will build natively. But we don't need everyone to build natively. We just need to give them the right payment infrastructure.
Have you actually used GPT-3 yourself?
No.
Because that's at 175 billion. No, is it? Yeah, 175. Let me think. Let me remember this. 175 billion parameters. And then GPT-4, which is 100, will be apparently, or has 100 trillion parameters. Now, that's as many as the brain has synapses. So that's 500 times the size of GPT-3. So apparently you need 1,000 artificial neurons for one biological neuron. So if we go on those kind of numbers, like, where do you, because they reckon 2024 GPT-4. So what's your thinking along? You know, what's your thinking there? Because I mean, it opens the AI up obviously to more people using it. So the quicker that the AI is going to learn as well. Is that the case?
Yeah, we're going to have a compounding effect, right? Because everything's going edge. We're going to a centralized database environment in terms of computation, and we're going edge, right? And when we have then, say, this whole shared economy aspect where we've got a pooling of computation as well, you've got the whole Moore's law aspect, which is kicking ass and still doing its thing. But then you have this new component where we can pool all of the what would otherwise be nascent hardware and get it active and get it functional and operating as a hive. If you've got a system like that operates like that, and this is where it comes back to the numerology aspect, what I'm looking at in terms of Bitcoin. I think we've got the possibility to have new forms of computation. Very different way of looking at computation. You have all of this kind of whole stacking nature. You've got splintering of doing, say computation. You can actually think and design in a higher dimensional way, not just a static 2D way, not even a 3D. We can think very differently, and this is where you then factor in the fact that Bitcoin is Turing complete and can loop these things in. I just think we're looking at a very, very different possibility in reality. Now, how does that path look in terms of, say, what would be described maybe as a truly quantum alternative? Right? And there's a lot of chat around that. I think that's a very, very, very different approach and take. I'm very into the whole quantum side of things. I don't share the same negative view with Freight, or the impossible view with Freight when it comes to the subject of all things quantum. Where Bitcoin's role is in that is still a question mark.
All I was trying to say earlier, when I brought up the quantum part of, Bitcoin, is most people are completely unaware that we live in a quantum reality. and how alive everything around us is, including Bitcoin. And, the fact that ancient civilizations used things that were mathematically sound to create their realities and their technologies and stuff, I just really am excited about the fact that I think Bitcoin, puts us on the trajectory to be able to do that again, being as mathematically sound as it is. It's in alignment with nature. So it'll open up so many more like dimensional things to us, including more math.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I'm here. That's why I absolutely love that you wear the art crystal and you've been into Nassim Haramein. Yeah, Nassim Haramein is on the board of Gravity, right? That is like the father of some of the most cutting edge discoveries in modern day physics. And I remember you kind of brushing up against some belief systems of Craig's when you were starting to bring up some Nassim research that totally like showed me, oh, wow, do I really know something a little bit more than Craig Wright? Oh, I was like, this is exciting. I know.
The component where I very much disagree, like, I love Craig, honestly. Like, I think he's a rounded, proficient expert in so many different disciplines. And that's actually functional. Even the fact he's on the spectrum, he's functional. I say very much his genius. When it comes to Tesla Edison, I so freaking disagree with him.
I do too. And I say that with love and respect, but I so do, because all of that stuff has been completely like debunked and, exposed for the truth with a capital T, if he would actually look at it, which is the whole,
I don't even want him to look at it. It's like, I see this is where I'm plugging that hole myself. I understand to a good degree, at least.
This is team humanity. Yep. Thank you.
But I very much understand the unified field physics approach. I'm very captivated by that approach. And I've been in Nassim's labs more than once. I've touched technology. I'm not even sure I'm allowed to talk about it.
Probably not.
It's incredible. And when you see things that you're doing, and I've seen DNA verification of off-planet life. And there's real stuff that's going on. And no one can tell me it's not going on, because I've seen it with my own eyes.
Same.
So it's very interesting knowing how suppressed Nassim's world is. But having a tap there and having a good line of communication and understanding that world, and then saying, okay, the things that are applicable to this world. And one of the things that I definitely want to achieve within the next couple of years is there are a couple of people I want to get in a room. I know if I get them in a room, I think it's going to be very interesting for humanity. Nassim and Craig being in a room at one point is going to be one.
Can I be a fly on that wall? Oh my gosh. So I just want to tell you on this note before we change off of Nassim, I agree with you, and I think it's evolutionary for humanity for those two to come together, because oh my gosh. But as far as the Resonance Science Foundation and Nassim's research and the colleagues that he has, I know you have connections with them. So we have got to get them onboarded. My intention for being here first in the space I'm holding is to help bring all this amazing content that really like changes a human being's spirit. It just evolves them. You can't go back to who you were after you learn, right? So we need their content on all these amazing platforms. I onboarded Nassim's really good friend, girlfriend of his that works with him all the time doing some healing work and stuff. So I either through you or her, I want to get to all those like Robert Edward Grant and, all the people that are doing the classes with this profound research and help them on board. So somehow we got to make that conversation start too.
I mean, that's intent my side. But one thing I've come to appreciate about that circle is everyone's reality, and
they're just so censored, all of them,
Yeah, but quite frankly, I don't think they make the best plays strategically and business-wise. In that circle, which is why I think there isn't as much progress as there should be as well.
I agree.
I'm very vocal about this with them directly, etc. And this is something I want to help address. Like, this is genuinely something I want to help address. But I've just been building up my own strength first. But that is a very untapped resource that humanity does need access to. But they are challenging characters in order to get everyone aligned with the best approach. Because there's many geniuses there that, should their invention come through, they're the guy, right? So there's still a little bit of ego. There's still stuff that stops certain things coming out internally, not always just externally. So it's, again, like, not what I've realized is no one has all the pieces, right?
Yeah.
Greg doesn't have all the pieces. Yassine doesn't have all the pieces, but we definitely need to work together.
Still, just starting more of this conversation with all of these super smart and paying attention people that are paying attention to this space, I think would be, just massively propelling for getting the global conversation going. Because, we are definitely, networking with a lot of amazing people in this space. So bringing them all together for,
I was going to say, drawing them all together is, it's huge.
It's awesome. Craig, Yassine, and Robert Grant on a call will be
awesome. My gosh. Yeah.
It would.
It'll be very controversial. Robert and
Absolutely.
Craig will butt heads, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Will be cool. Robert and Craig will butt heads, I guarantee it. But I think that conversation needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's about them staying true to themselves, though, really, as well, isn't it? Because, I mean, that's great integrity as well. It's like, you've stayed suppressed because you're actually staying true to what you want, you believe in. You're not being swayed by anybody else on the outside. So, that's a
and they have
really brave thing to do.
Yeah.
Like mathematical discoveries that actually they could understand explaining, but like, you can't argue with
The math.
Well, oddly, don't you think BSV is the ultimate suppressed technology at the minute, in terms of, just not getting the airtime? It's clearly superior in every way.
That's going to drastically change next year. I mean, Gravity has some amazing things planned next year. I mean, what we've been doing behind the scenes is building the solutions to a lot of the challenges that we speak about vocally, right? So next year, in terms of our NFT plans, our metaverse plans, these are things that we've been building now for a couple of years. I will go on to say I think Bitcoin's going to look very different. Our on-chain volume is going to look very, very, very different. And the domino effects of some of the conversations that we're having, I do think it's just going to be a very important year for
I do. I can feel it. Yeah. And are we allowed to ask you about your NFT platform plans? Yeah. Go on then. Tell us.
Yes.
I'll be cagey a little bit, but I'll tell you some stuff. So we're planning on launching Q1 next year. Key highlights is on-chain, genuinely on-chain. It's layer 0 technology. So does
that mean STAS tokens?
Yeah. So we're going to be the first exchange being launched on STAS. We are also going to be highlighting the green aspects of BSV. I think this is the biggest undersold point of BSV. I've even pushed the association to make this the big key headline of BSV, and I'll continue to do so. I'm most certainly going to be promoting it on our side. You'll be able to upload a gig NFT on
Bloody
chain.
hell!
Excellent.
That's not messing about, is it?
There's going to be a lot of industry first.
There's going to be a lot of videos coming online.
Yeah. So videos will not be an issue, as well as music.
That's amazing.
Cool.
The key component is how you interact with it, and the way that we are going to enable you to interact with it is also what you're going to need to interact with other metaverses. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is once we introduce this, I do think this is going to become a Bitcoin standard as to how we all interact with respective metaverses and what we expect from our financial institution that enables us to interact with these respective metaverses. I want everything to all be in one place.
That would be great. That would be great, because I feel like at the minute the main problem is the fact that everybody's using different protocols, and you can't send tokens between wallets, and you can't really interact with any of the platforms that are servicing other blockchains. I mean, it's a whole mess, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I know we're recreating that in BSV. You've got Run, you've obviously got Stas, tokenized, obviously a couple other implementations. And really, whoever creates the biggest network effect in terms of market dominance,
Yeah.
everyone else will have to yield. And that's how it should be anyway. I very, very, very strongly believe that's going to be Stas. Like very strongly believe that will be Stas. And then we just see, because once we agree on a token protocol standard, better interoperability of our metaverses that we're building on BSV.
Can I ask you this technical question? With a Stas token, can it be freed up again? I mean, is there a sense in which you can use it to represent X and then use it to represent Y instead? Or does it get burned?
If the Satoshi ever became more valuable than the thing you're coloring it with, you want to redeem the Satoshi. You can do that.
Right.
So what's the reach of Gravity at the minute? Because it was London and Europe. So are there any plans for reaching further, Australia, US?
Yeah, so Gravity has always been designed with a global view. However, what we've been doing is really understanding the law of the land when it comes to regulation. Now that doesn't, with UK born, right? The whole team pretty much UK born. Our tech team is overseas. A large chunk of our tech team is overseas. But if you're going to learn, say, the regulatory landscape, it's best it's best your home turf. I could say a different term there, but I was like, it's best your home turf, right? So it's been a huge learning exercise for us. We've explored, say, a couple of different jurisdictions as well. But I was like, let's try and get this process right here. Now, in terms of like the UK regulators and how they're conducting themselves, it's not favorable towards crypto businesses. So we are looking at other alternatives and variants. Now, us looking at other alternative and variants is actually now to expedite our global plans. So the plan is to have Gravity in a lot more jurisdictions next year, and not just UK and EU. It might involve us strategically having to move ourselves around, but that will be with the view to serve more jurisdictions quicker. We've played it incredibly safe to not aggravate the UK regulator.
Yeah.
But now it's at the point where they're now giving like updates and decisions. We've got more clarity as to like where their head's at. We know what we're dealing with, so now we can be more free about, okay, let's look at other places. Also, we are just in the process now of finalizing our funding as well. I've bootstrapped Bitstocks myself, 100K savings at the beginning. We've done our crowdfund campaign at the beginning of this year, but that's the first bit of money we've ever taken in as a business in 7 years. And now it's like we're finalizing capital, which some great strategic partners we're speaking with, in order to just really flourish and stop surviving, and now we're going to thrive. So the whole incubation, this is a good thing about, it's been painful taking this route, but the fact that I haven't had any overlords over me, it's allowed me to be quite slow and be very deliberate in my actions. It's been very expensive and very painful because BSV performance has been horrific. So it's made it high.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Like nobody could have really predicted it'd be this bad. Yeah.
So that's hurt a lot. But what we have managed to do is, I believe, build the best business use case for BSV. Basically, we've just said Bitcoin is your computer, Gravity is Windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that
analogy. Yeah.
And that's been our approach.
Another question about NFTs. This is actually for Jimmy Wynn, because he had some questions for you. Like the NFTs themselves, are they coded smart contracts? Are they, can you write your own smart contract? How's that kind of side of things working?
You have flexibility of both. So yes, you'll be able to encode your own contracts. We'll be able to do it through API. So you'll be able to have like a private API. We could do volume minting. You can have variations of what it is that you want to do on your API. We can
Oh,
even
that sounds good.
we can even have conversations about generative NFTs as well.
That was one of the questions as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, off just say the Gravity NFT marketplace, that's going to be a little bit more standardized with how we launch and how we're going about doing things. But the ability to say split tokens, so fractalized NFTs, yeah, we're already testing all of that tech.
And are you having an auction site as well? So, like, you know, if you
right now,
yeah.
auction. We then will be doing peer-to-peer trading as well, enabling that. Just complications around Apple's stance and position on NFT trading in apps that we just need to get further.
Oh, right, yeah. But you can do it through the website, presumably.
Yeah, but it's not really the experience I want.
I love the iOS app. It's so smooth. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm actually speaking about a different iOS app.
Oh.
Yeah, which is going to be your connection point with how you interact with other MetaNet services.
Okay, so that's going to be a different. Okay, so 2 platforms.
Yeah, so there's going to be a triangle with the Gravity ecosystem. You have Gravity Money, which is what you guys are familiar with right now. You have a Gravity NFT exchange, and then you have a question mark, which I can't talk on right now. And that's going to be that's going to be the third component, and that's your triangle. That is everything you need for what anyone calls what the metaverse is or won't be. You will be able to interact as long as these operators are obviously interacting and have an integration with us. It will be very seamless. But if they're at least communicating with Bitcoin or protocol, you'll be able to interact.
So I know, talking about triangles, let's go to pyramidal shaped triangles. And I know you went to Egypt a bit back. How many times have you been now? And do you want to go down? Shall we go down that road? Giants, the pyramids built by giants. What do you think?
Were you at the delegate gathering?
Okay, so I think pyramids. Yes, I was. Yeah,
nice.
There's about 30 of us at that trip.
It's amazing.
I've been twice. I definitely believe that the pyramids were built before Adam, so pre-Adam. I think 2 concepts. We're talking about beings who are clearly far more advanced than what we deem ourselves to be today, right? Built technological structures that we still couldn't build anywhere remotely today, irrespective of what Craig said on my podcast. Even his billions is not doing this. I don't care, you're not doing it, mate. Right? I've been to the pyramids. You cannot fit a razor blade between these blocks.
No, they are precision.
Yeah. The precision is insane. I have armed in the resonance chambers. I've sat and laid in a sarcophagus and been initiated in a sarcophagus. Like, it's a musical instrument.
Yeah, resonating device.
It is and it's out of resonance as well because of the pole shift and everything. But yet it's still harmonic enough that it feels an incredible resonance. Right? So for me, I'll say look into blue avians. I guess what's depicted as being Horus, both the Atlantean priestkin. So if you study the Emerald tablets, which I am a student of, is the tablets, as well as the Law of One. So those are 2 things that I'm very much a student of, and the answers to these questions are very much in there.
So what about Atlantis then? Because there is a theory going around that the Ricard structure could possibly be Atlantis, because it's sort of basically in the place that Plato said it would be when he wrote about it. And there are eccentric circles, and it's 28 miles wide. Do you know where I'm talking about?
It's concentric circles.
You've got Egypt this side, and then the Ricard structure is this side, and it's like literally there are concentric circles, and there's evidence of salt, etc., which is laid in there, and it's very much like the images of Atlantis would be, with the 3 kind of.
I think there's many archaeological sites of technological significance, like loads, like Stonehenge. Another one, there are thousands of pyramids. Like we wouldn't really talk about
pyramids under the sand even.
Right? from my understanding, Atlantis wasn't too far of what we now call Australia, pre-pole shift. Post, it's Antarctica.
Bermuda Triangle. No.
Okay, so it's interesting. There's so many different theories about where Atlantis could be. There's a European Atlantis, there's the African Atlantis, and then Antarctica Atlantis.
Well, actually, we're talking about an advanced civilization. So an advanced civilization will have the means in order to have, say, respective cities in different locations around a relatively small planet. From my understanding, the story of Atlantis is woven into why we have an asteroid belt.
Tiamat, yeah.
Tiamat, and what happened there. The inhabitants of that planet, the inhabitants of the moons of that planet, and the inhabitants of obviously Mars that got a lot of damage when that planet exploded. And the refugees, where the refugees sought refuge. That's very woven into the story of Atlantis, and from my understanding, human origins. And I think the fallen angels that fell from the heavens and bred with women of men is a reference to the refugees crash landing on this planet. I think if you go really deep into the subject matter, there's a lot of things there. However, with Atlantis, the biggest thing for me, which I study, is obviously emerald tablets, Thoth. So Thoth was the Atlantean priest king. He was the keeper of records, keeper of time. Me being a student of his teachings is why I started calling Bitcoin a time chain really early. I in it as a time chain and a keeper of records. Craig is like a manifested Thoth, whether he realizes it or not. He's introduced the digital recreation of the Akashic record.
He definitely seems like an alien.
I call Bitcoin our modern day Library of Alexandria. They can't burn.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part and we need all the creators that have been silenced or will be silenced to be putting their stuff on there as fast as possible because of this mass censorship agenda. I mean, it's rampant. It's like really dangerous. So that's the stolen generation with the Aboriginal people. I mean, this is what they do. They take the information from us and then they can control and manipulate. So we have to take our information back and put it somewhere that future generations have it forever.
No, I agree. Rewriting history is the most dangerous thing that can happen to civilization.
Going back to the theme and the Resonant Science Foundation and people like Robert and his work, this is the message that I've said to them. I was like, we are now at a point where we have a memory for humanity, right? Where your work can be distributed in a way that we can actually keep memory. Right? It's a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing.
They're changing definitions.
Yeah, you can burn books, but you can burn books, but you cannot burn the.
However, now is not the time to drop, say, free energy schematics on the blockchain. I definitely wouldn't recommend it right now. We're too small. It will get shut down relatively easily and quickly. Bitcoin can be shut down. Bitcoin at scale with too much economic influence in terms of how the world operates.
A bit like the internet,
Well, if you look at all the, I don't even hardly want to say it, but all the sacred sites and all the sites on these pyramid and all this stuff, it's all in alignment with the constellations of Orion, right?
Actually, that's an interesting one. I'll just chip in here because the Orion theory was Robert Bauval, and I've spoke to Robert Bauval, and he wrote a book about this. And for a long time, the Orion theory was kind of accepted with people like Graham Hancock and Robert, etc. But then it came about that actually it's more in line with Sirius than it is with Orion, because Orion is just slightly off, whereas Sirius actually fits perfectly. So it's in. Sorry, but I know this goes down another route. Sorry, I just want.
No, it's okay. I don't know.
But is it that we're on the same filament as Sirius? I feel like we're connected to them by a filament. So as they move, we move, kind of thing.
I just got the Will Smiths on there, just like that.
You got what?
That's ludicrous. I just got Ludacris playing in my head. When we move, they move, just like that.
Oh yeah, right.
And there's a dragon near the northern star. Dragon constellation, which is BSV.
Oh, right. I see what you mean. The BSV dragon. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Okay, so do you know what the main star is on the top of the dragon then, Korppi?
No, I can't remember.
Maybe go into that. Sorry. I also wanted like the Hall of Records as well, because you've obviously been to the pyramids twice, so you've been to the Sphinx. So have you been under the Sphinx as Paul?
No. So we were supposed to, but it didn't end up happening. Now, what I want to do, because when we were fortunate enough that the group that was with, which was just shy of 30 people, we had the Giza Plateau shut down for us for 8 hours. So we were the only ones there and exploring. We got to spend a lot of time in the King's Chamber. So imagine being in the King's Chamber and also the Queen's Chamber. And you've got everyone in that chamber chanting the owl.
And you guys had the tetragrammatron, right? Is that what that shape was with these? So these are arc crystals. Michael, I'd love for you to, describe it, because I've seen you wear them so many times in your videos, if you don't mind. But
so Nassim actually manufactures these crystals in a factory himself. So it's not a natural crystal. He actually manufactures these crystals himself in order to achieve the precision that he needs to achieve with the cutting. So this is just cut so precisely that it taps into the vacuum energy, the same thing that powers everything, right? So these are actually spitting out photons. It's the only crystal that I've held where immediately I put it in my palm and I actually felt it's almost like an ice-like cool feeling on the palm of your hand. Now, if you were to put that into a petri dish of seeds, right? I think typical germination rate of seeds is like mid-high 80%. If you have an arc crystal, which has, I think, a resonance field of a 7 centimeter diameter, you get 99% plus germination rate. Right? Wow. That in itself can help restructure your water. So if you have a vortex machine and you spin your water in that, it actually restructures the water, makes it look like a snowflake as opposed to a broken snowflake. Mm-hmm. This is doing that naturally. So it's a great thing that actually has some health benefits beyond the fact that it just looks awesome. But they are exploring doing things with water, integrating it into water supplies in order to have softer water and more resonantly balanced water.
One of the most profound things I've ever learned from Nassim and his research was when he showed that it's the water that modulates your DNA, not the other way around, because water is so conscious. And, I already was like starting to speak to my own waters and really acknowledge them and send them love. And that water-filled sac around everyone's heart, your pericardium, is so traumatized right now these days with the vaccine stuff. So just, wearing this and knowing that my waters are being structured, and then, I don't know, it's just a beautiful feeling when you really start to tune into the waters of your own body. It's it can really work with you and show you some new things in the world if you let it.
Well,
so
very interesting technology. I find so fascinating about water is that from what I understand, it's the water, like if you get a stem cell treatment, it's the water in the stem cells, that really does you the good. And it's the plasma in the blood that's rejuvenating. If somebody gets like a blood infusion from, say, somebody who's got, a young person who's got healthy blood, it's the water that's doing the work. Nothing else.
God, water is everything.
Water is everything.
Water is everything. Spirit.
I think it was a great depiction of like some of this weird abstract stuff that we talk about in terms of resonance science and Nassim's work, etc. Watch Frozen 2. Right? Mm-hmm. To the movie, they talk about water, memory, the way it touches and remembers. It's bloody brilliant. It is so close to actually the physics of things when you delve into that world. I thought it was really funny, artistic representation of something quite physically profound.
There's a YouTube called The Sacred Knowledge of Vibration and Water. And that is super amazing compilation video. Starts out with Greg Braden, and then goes into Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, and then cymatics, and shows how the frequencies make the shapes too. So it's just fascinating little video. But I mean, when we start to realize and acknowledge individually that we are water, like, 70-80% of our bodies are water, and then the earth is water. I mean, it's a good place to start when it comes to healing and helping things change.
I think aging is drying.
Yeah.
So if you dry out, you age. So I just do think that water is youth, it's life. And, it's loss of hydrogen bonds that really makes everything deteriorate.
We're touching on a few things that we've actually covered. This loops into it quite nicely. So life extension is actually referred in the Bible as, not referred as life extension, but as an interesting reference to a substance called manna in the Bible. Now, going back to Egypt and the hieroglyphs in Egypt, there is, when you see Anubis being depicted, that is indicative of the digestive system. There tends to be an offering to Anubis. It tends to be like it's like almost a triangle-esque mound of like a substance. That is manna, or monatomic gold, believed to be one of the utilizations as to what the pyramids were producing. So gold obviously is meant to be a noble metal. Most noble metals meaning non-reactive, etc. Change it into another state. But gold can be actually converted into a white powder and consumed. And when consumed, the human body is the right temperature, affecting room temperature, where it will superconduct. If it superconducts to say extend out the aging process, because as you rightly said, it's kind of like drying, right? But actually say it's the loss of light. Now, you want negatively charged hydrogen ions in order to keep your cells charged with light. Now, our chromosomes, at the end of our chromosomes, we have telomeres. Right? So when those telomeres degrade, right, it's like the cap on your shoelace degrading. Right? That's where sickness comes in, the cell can become cancerous, it mutates. What monatomic gold does, in theory, not personally validated as such just yet, is it superconducts and supercharges the end of your telomeres. So they don't degrade.
They don't fray.
That this is one of the avenues of life extension.
Frequency as well, Michael, because who's that guy, Adam? Everything has a frequency to it. So telomeres have a frequency as well. So if you actually know what the frequency is, you can feed your brain that frequency, as in a binaural beat. So it's two different frequencies, and when it mixes, it becomes one frequency. And then that can reattune your brain to that particular frequency. Obviously, you have to do it for I'm very much into this kind of thing. And then that reattunes your brain. So you're fine-tuning the frequency that you need to actually be able to heal yourself, to be able to repair certain elements, to actually kill out cancer cells, etc. The Rye frequency is proven. The cancer research have researched more into Rye frequency, and it has been proven that Rye frequency can actually help to reduce the size of cancer cells. So that's something I'm really fascinated in, because and Mike Adams, it was Mike Adams, 16AC, who did a thing on molecular structure and atoms.
The Health Ranger report, right?
Yeah, we talked about that recently. Just
brilliant
with Mandeep, yeah.
Brilliant.
When you hear it, when you hear the sound of healing versus the sound of sickness, it makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense then that I call it like a snake bite. If you're sick, you've got a snake bite, there's an antidote that you can just give the body and it'll cancel out that venom. It's the same with the frequency. It's We just need the antidote frequencies.
If I can just for 1 second, what I find so annoying about this current push for the Vs, let's call it, is that they're poisoning the water of the body. They're poisoning the blood, and they're depleting our reservoir of negatively charged hydrogen ions, like you're talking about, Michael. And so they're essentially at root, they're really just drying out the body and making it so that the nervous system can't work properly, and people end up having, twitches and seizures and blood clots, and it's horrendous. And the difficulty is that, like, because I enjoy studying this and have been doing for years, I have I would like to say a sort of an intuitive understanding of the way in which they're harming the body, but it's very hard to kind of transmit that to anybody who doesn't know any of the same stuff you do. But it is a frustrating time to live in at the moment, because there's so much knowledge that we're ignoring and putting to one side, and then trying to insist that everybody gets treated in the same way with the same medicine, which isn't really medicine at all.
We're definitely in humanity's hour.
Turning point. Yeah.
And I'm very positive. Like, there's no way that, the more that I look back on it all, I think it was naive to assume that we weren't going to have this period.
Yeah.
If we look at this
all
period,
you got to do is look at the Georgia Guidestones. We knew it was coming. That was 1980.
If we look strategically, this is not an act of strength. This is an act of desperation or weakness. They're rolling so many stages of their plan out so quickly that you don't need to be a genius to see that there's something wrong here. Now, the uptake in what people are doing is disappointing, right? But again, if we look at this as the Earth condition, right? We have every single one of us has a choice as to what side of history we want to be on here. Right? And the fact that they are so desperate and they are being so forceful, I think the big, huge point of pushback are going to be midterms in the US, and then definitely tail end of 2023 and 2023 as a year. I think things are really going to heat up because you're going into campaign year. And it looks 90% plus Trump will be running again when it comes to that. I think we're going to get such a new wave of revelations in an environment when we've seen the other side now. So we're just being squeezed right now, and it's still tight. But I think this is really where our real actions need to match our spiritual beliefs and understanding. Conducting ourselves that way, right? Because I'm not allowing myself to be disbalanced. I'm disappointed in what it is that I'm seeing out there. But also, I think we do have an opportunity here where we're going to come out of all of this considerably better, but we have to work for it. So
yeah, I agree.
We've straight back into gravity, Bitstocks, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. That's been my salvation, quite frankly, in this pandemic, because
it's your activism.
I know I'm focusing on something that actually matters in this fight. And I think we all just basically need to do that in some way, shape or form.
Move the needle a bit.
Well,
no pun intended.
No. Move it all the way over there, thanks. Yeah.
Diddy, I'm just mindful of time, right? But I do remember you saying that you just
I was going to say,
so I don't want to go before you ask me. I don't know if it's the Egypt question or not.
No, well, actually, this was about Taproot. And are you going to be the first platform to actually do a clothing range then? Because I was listening to an interview you were doing the other day, and that sounded pretty damn cool, to be honest with you. So I was just wondering, do you think you will be the first platform to offer a clothing range?
I was like, how do you know that? I was like, what did I say? Yeah, we're definitely going to have merch. We're going to have merch, and there's going to be clothing collaborations. That
would be cool.
We need merch too.
Yeah,
we've got merch. We've got merch. Casey. There you wear them.
Launching
soon.
yeah, the Gravity NFT and also the question mark play is a global play. So hopefully all going well. Everyone will be able to interact with these products upon launch. And yeah, it's just going to be a very exciting and interactive environment. What I want to see is clothing brands utilizing our exchange, doing physical drops as well as doing digital drops. Yeah, short answer.
That'll be wonderful.
Almost like a cross between a gallery collection, and a fashion house. So that would be really cool. Yeah.
I mean, you have got a full media house, haven't you, as well? Gaming and the filming side of things, sound, etc. So full on media,
covering all the bases.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been a strategy last, I guess, 5 years. Really, that pumped out while we've just been quietly building behind the scenes. It's really allowed us to do our real passion, which is educate, because learn to teach and teach to learn is definitely my mantra to life. I just really enjoy doing that, and it gets me to interact with people all the time as well. But a real serious part of what we're doing is now very product driven. We're ready. We think we've got the best products in the world when it comes to blockchain and the execution of Bitcoin. And I just want as many people using them as possible now.
Certainly, our American friends are very jealous of our Gravity accounts.
I want to use it. I was gonna say, if you are open to, maybe doing a tutorial video with Diddy or any other UK women of BSV to put inside the Brand on Chain Academy about Bitstocks, I would love to, help funnel traffic to you guys for people that could actually use your service, even though I can't.
I'd love to.
I think it's amazing.
Soon they'll be able to. So soon they'll be able to. Way sooner than our team will allow me to.
And if you like teaching, I would love to invite you and be honored to have you as, a guest teacher for anything you wanted to share to any of the people that have went through the academy, because I'm funneling them into an ANA group. George gave me a private Brand on Chain Academy ANA group that will be able to stay engaged with all of those entrepreneurs that we bring in through that onboarding. So that way in there you can hold webinars and give them challenges and amazing little incentivized gamification things. And so I wanted to keep them updated with new feature updates and things like that. So if you had anything to share and wanted to ever hold a webinar to all of those creators in that group, please.
He's my boy, so
yeah,
I'd love to.
That'd be wonderful to collaborate like that.
Let's let Michael go, because he's got a Chinese is going cold and some hungry children.
I'm probably 2 hungry kids right now.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Michael. We really appreciate not just you being on the show here, but also just Gravity itself and Bitstocks. You make our lives so much better. Thank you.
So much easier.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you all. And I also appreciate you guys always being active as much as you can at our events and stuff as well. It's always lovely to see your face, always have a familiar face. So please make sure you're doing that, because we'll be very active next year. And just have an amazing Christmas to all of you.
And you.
Wow, very much.
I want to say, because Sleepless asked me to check out the Onis, the Oni NFT.
Oni.
Oh, that's the
Yeah. You passing messages on her from your crew?
Yeah, I promise to say it if I have time. Yeah. Merry Christmas.
I got to be honest, when it comes to NFTs, I've been so focused on what we're doing.
Yeah, I bet you have. Yeah. Not keeping up with it.
I'm very excited to see it. I also wanted to just say, one of your favourite sayings that I think it makes me laugh all the time is, you come to our house, you flush a toilet, and it works.
Yeah. I promise I use this in boardroom settings now.
Yeah.
I love it.
Closing deals, talking about shit.
On that note, I'm going to press end broadcast.
So much,
but thank you. We love you,
Take
Michael.
care.